you are a decoy, and this is something you don't get paid for.
No.
And basically what you do is you go online pretending to be a 13-year-old in order to catch paedophiles. Can you explain a little bit about what you do?
Yes, so I go on a certain app. Each decoy is sometimes given different apps. We don't all go on the same one. 9 out of 10 times the paedophiles are on multiple apps. So I go on, and obviously to go on you have to be over 18 years of age, so I use a different date of birth. But then as soon as I'm contacted, I don't contact any paedophiles or people on that app. The minute that I'm contacted with a hi, I then say who I am, my decoy name, and that I am 13 years old.
Okay, so just to make sure that's absolutely clear, you go onto a dating app, which you are supposed to be 18 to be on.
Correct.
But as soon as you are contacted, you explain, I'm not really 18, I'm 13. And this is part of basically catching them out to see if they say, oh, I'm very sorry, but I can't talk to you.
Exactly.
Or if they engage in conversation.
Exactly. I would like to think that if I have 50 a day, I would say at least 6 or 7 of them would say to me, you're far too young, and they block me, or they say, be very careful, you're far too young, make sure your mum and dad, you know you're on it. But the rest of them persist.
What sort of picture are you using on these dating websites? Because of course your picture's up there and people contact each other on, appearance, and what sort of picture are you using?
So as a group, Justice for Kids, we often on the our Facebook page, we request off our followers, who we have over 3,000 or 4,000, we request that if they have any pictures of themselves when they were children that they wouldn't mind us using, they then send them to us and we use them as a decoy picture.
So there are actually, these pictures are of 13, 14-year-olds,
yes.
But of course who are adults now.
Correct.
Who are allowing you to use their pictures.
Correct.
Okay. So these men are contacting initially what they think are 18-year-old women. So they're not going out there looking for children initially at all.
No.
They're going out thinking, I'm going to contact this person, I find them attractive.
Correct.
So that's what they are initially doing. Why target a dating app then where you have to be 18 to start
so
with?
my decoy picture, I'm clearly not 18. I clearly look a child. So as much as you may say they may be attracted to that decoy picture, that it sends up alarm bells immediately, because the decoy picture is of I am a 13-year-old on that picture. So he then should be turning around knowing that I'm a child, because it clearly sees I'm a child, saying to me, no, you're a child and shouldn't be on this site.
Yeah.
However, he doesn't. They then usually choose to persist.
They do target children on other apps as well,
Yeah.
which children use. You don't have to be over 18.
Mm-hmm.
Do you decoy those sites as well?
Yes.
You do?
Mm-hmm.
Now, going into it now, once they do persist and the conversation starts,
Yeah.
when does it turn sexual?
It can be more or less instant. I will tell them who I am, my decoy name, and that I am 13 years old and that I live near Preston. They will then respond back, hi, I'm 38, maybe a bit old for you. I also have to be in the mindset of a 13-year-old and respond as a 13-year-old would. Therefore, I would put back, yes, oh goodness, 38 is old. Usually then I will receive a picture of that man's anatomy.
And is this something that happens quite often?
Regularly. I would say if I speak to 10 men who are aware of my age, I would say that within 10 messages, I've received a picture of their anatomy.
Once you start receiving these messages, of course, it's all evidence. How do you go about keeping that?
So the police and the courts, we have to screenshot, and the last message on each screenshot has to be the first message of the next screenshot. So it's all kept as screenshots. And every answer we give, we have to give as a 13-year-old. We can't answer as an adult. We have to sort of, when they send the horrific pictures through to us, I have to say, oh my goodness, what is that? Because as 13, I'm not supposed to have seen anything sexual.
Once this conversation has happened, who is it that asks for a meet-up?
They have to, otherwise it's entrapment. So they say to me, can you get to Preston Station, if it's a local in this area? I will then say, no, I'm only 13. Sometimes they request to meet you at midnight. No, I'm only 13, how am I supposed to get there? Or of recently, I had one who was down south who asked me to go to meet him, and I said, I've got no money, I'm only 13, how am I supposed to get there on my own? He then agreed that he would travel up to me and meet me at a designated place. I kept saying, no, I'm only 13, my parents will go mad. He asked me to bring money, if I could get some money off my parents so that we could stay in a hotel overnight.
So you're telling them on several occasions your age? All the time, reminding them. How many times do you have to say it?
We like to get a minimum in the first opening of 5 times. So, and usually on my messages, which you have seen, I have to tell them 5 times that I'm 13 years old, because it can be classed as a fantasy. On 1 or 2 hits, they can come under the fantasy law. So if we can get 5 times of me persistently saying that I'm a 13-year-old, it's better for us when we go to court and present the evidence.
And when they're asking to meet up, you're not encouraging this at all. You're just having to say,
I give all the negative responses. I'm 13, I'll be in bed, my parents won't let me, I'll get grounded. When it becomes to the sexual explicit content, my answer is, I'm scared, will it hurt? And they pamper to my need, and they'll say, no, it doesn't hurt, it'll be lovely, you may end up getting a baby from it. They carry on with the sexual implication of it. Are you a virgin? May I take your virginity? I have to say to them, I don't know what a virgin means, because I'm supposed to be 13. So they explain everything to me.
So once you have this evidence, you've got it all saved, tell us what happens next.
So when we feel we have enough for our hunters to go, we have to make sure, usually 2 or 3 weeks worth of chat log. If off one decoy, 9 out of 10 times, there's 3, 4, 5 decoys, maybe from other hunting groups as well, not just our hunting group. We collect all the evidence ready. We download any indecent images. We have our USBs all ready. And then the person who wants to meet us, I don't like using the word suspected paedophile, because in my head they are already paedophilic from the behaviour they have done with me. So when we arrange to meet the man, he's expecting the 13-year-old decoy to turn up, and he's not. He's meant by all of our head hunters.
When you meet them, you take a group, don't you? Is that for safety?
It's not just for the hunter's safety, it's for the paedophile safety, because we don't want people to beat the paedophiles up. We want justice for the children. So we have an agreement that if, obviously because we're quite well known now on Facebook with all these hunting groups, I'm sorry, I'm getting them through now as we're doing the interview.
You're getting messages through now?
Yes, I've got 3 now. So we arrange to meet, we go to the place, we meet up with them, we explain who we are, we explain we're not there to hurt them. The hunters make it crystal clear, it's all done live on Facebook. If the general public then realise what we are doing, because we do tell them if they approach, we usually get the paedophile into a corner, so that if anybody was going to start, our hunters then would cover them and they will take the beating rather than the paedophile. They won't let the paedophile get hurt, because the outcome is we want justice for the children.
The biggest question I've got is, yes, you find these paedophiles, you get the evidence, you go and it's a civil arrest, isn't it?
Yes, Section 24A, yeah.
So why then post it to social media?
Because if that person is not remanded, and so I understand with the population in prisons at the moment and the way that the law is, if they are not remanded and released on bail the next day, if I lived 3 doors away from that man and I had a 13-year-old child, I'd want to know if he'd been up to no good and was on bail for being paedophilic. So
how long does it take to basically get to court?
Sometimes it's quite quick. It depends on the force. There are certain forces in the country that aren't as forthcoming as others. I'd like Lancashire Police are great. They have, when we've done stings with them, they're very good. They always follow through. The recent one that they did, he was remanded. It can take, depending on how many decoys they've got, because you've got to get all the evidence in. But we have repeat offenders that have been caught with us before or been caught with other teams before. So it's usually, now, we genuinely find now that they are remanded instantly.
Just looking at it from the other side, let's say this paedophile has a family at home, and when you put it out on social media, more often than not, they are recognised, because it goes absolutely viral. So many people share it, and it becomes like a witch hunt.
Yeah.
Can you understand that the suspected paedophiles' families could unfortunately receive some abuse?
Yeah, it does happen, and the houses can be attacked. Unfortunately, that paedophile should have thought about that before he started sending horrible messages. The images I have to see are disgusting. As soon as the police get there, we know all of the computers, etc., at home are going to be taken. We always say live on when we're doing the sting, we always say, please do not take this out on the families. Please do not go to the address. We don't usually tend to give the big address out. We tell them the area, and we express that it's nothing to do with the families. But unfortunately, I have to be really honest and say, not my problem. You shouldn't be talking the way you're talking to a 13-year-old child. If your family meant that much to you, you wouldn't be doing it.
If there is young children in that property...
Social services are then brought in because obviously there's every chance if he's proven guilty for grooming and paedophilic behaviour that he could have done it to them children.
So basically, straight away, the police are at that property?
Yes.
Yes, and there's things in place?
Yes.
Just to go back to when the sting is happening and all these people, thousands of people are watching, and they are sending death threats. They are sending, kick the whatever out of them.
Yeah.
Because people are angry.
Yeah.
People don't like to think it's on their doorstep. What do you think of that anger streaming towards that person?
Truthfully, I think it's well justified. I'm sorry, but it is. If you're a parent, it's completely justified that you would feel that way. However, bear with us, because that person, if you give them a good beating, will be out of hospital in 2 weeks, on the computer, targeting a child. Leave it to us, they won't be in hospital. They'll be in prison, on remand, and usually do quite a long sentence for it, and end up on the sexual offenders list. That's all we want them on. We want them in prison for the crime they've done to the decoy, and then put onto the sexual offenders list. If they've children of their own, unfortunately, yes, them children will have to be interviewed and go through things, but surely that's the right thing to do if they have interfered with them. And as I say, they do interfere with their own children.
Whilst we've been sat here, you've had some messages come through on your phone, haven't you? 4 messages in total?
Yes.
Is it possible to read any of them out, maybe the ones that aren't as sexually explicit? So,
the first one I had, he's put hi, and I've put hi. My name's Sophie, I'm 13-year-old, and I'm from Preston. He's put, do you want to see my nude video?
And that's the first thing he wrote back?
Yes, I've put, what nude video? I'm Sophie, I'm 13 years old, and I'm from near Preston. And he then sent me an indecent image of himself.
Has there been any more contact with that particular?
Yes, this was ongoing for 3.5 weeks.
Right, okay.
This specific one. He then put, after the indecent image of himself, he put good, I ignored it. He put question mark. I then put, what is that? He put, you don't know. Then, please will you send me a picture? I put, no, I'm only 13 and I don't think I know what it is. Please send me a picture. We have to say this. I put, my camera's broken, and my mum said I've got to wait till Christmas for a new phone. And he put, I'll send you the money to buy a new camera phone.
Right.
So they're insistent on it. This one is another separate one. Please can you send me a picture? And I've put, hi, my name's Sophie, I'm 13. That was his first question. And then he's put back, I'm going to send you a picture. And again, it's another indecent image of himself. A separate, this is a completely different man. And then he's put good. And I've put, oh, what is that? He's then told me what it is. And I've put back, oh, no, I don't like it. And he's put, please, I'd like you to touch it with your mouth.
How many of these are you getting a day?
My hit from last Friday is approximately, I can tell you, 2010.
2010 messages?
Yes.
And this is something that you do, because of course you do have a job.
I do.
This is something you do in your spare time.
Yes.
And you've had 2010 messages?
Yes. Men have contacted me. We say men, we always presume a paedophile's a man. They're not. There are women out there that, as well, that we have stung, and that we have had results with. But it's 98% usually men. And they range from 18 right the way through to 80 years old. Right the way, all the way through. They don't stop at 30, 40, 50. We had one sting last week. The gentleman, he would have been the perfect granddad for anybody. And there was 14 decoys on him. So you go back to saying about his family. It's awful for his family. But he's not thought about his family when he's decoyed that child. We have to act for the child that he believes he's meeting.
This area specifically, so I'm talking Blackpool, Wire and Fylde, is it a big issue here?
Massive. Bigger than you'll ever know.
Do you find
4 figures, that's what I'll say to you. Of them 2010 that I've had since last Friday, 4 figures are from this area. Over 1,000 of the hits are from this area. And I'm still getting them now as we're talking. I've had 2 more. So a lot of the people you work with know that this seems to be a hotspot? Yeah.
Why do you think that is?
Seaside resort. Kiddies come and go. Kiddies come up with the parents for the weekends. Great place to meet Blackpool. Hey, I'll meet you. I'll take you to the pleasure beach. We had one of recent, obviously, as you know, you reported on it, at North Pier, and the police weren't very happy with us. Any child would love to meet somebody and go to Blackpool, and go through the illuminations and do what they do. So it's a big hotspot. And a lot of the ones that we sting down south, well, obviously they don't know we're in Blackpool, So when they think I'm in Preston, they arrange to meet in Blackpool. So it's a great hotspot for people to meet here.
I have contacted Lancashire Police to speak about what you guys do, and although they support catching potential paedophiles, they do ask is that people aren't joining these groups and aren't doing it so publicly, and this is their line on it. They say, we urge absolute caution before anyone considers such activity and would ask that people have confidence in the police and other law enforcement in our prioritisation in tackling grooming and child abuse, whether that be on or offline.
My reaction to that is I understand the police they do a fantastic job. They're very, very busy. They don't have the resources. We all work for nothing. They don't have the resources to do this. I know they urge us, if there's anybody thinks that their child's being groomed, etc., to contact them. When we do a sting, as we hit that front door, or as we arrive at that train station, or wherever the location is, I have not known the police to respond within less than an hour and a half. I understand we're taking the police time away, and as I say, some of the forces are good, others aren't so good. We feel we're not vigilantes. I don't like that word being used.
Yes, they have said vigilante before, haven't they?
I understand, and the meaning of vigilante is that we take the law into our own hands. We don't do that because we can't sentence people. We can't put people in prison. The only part of the law we can take in our hands is a citizen's arrest. We can't do the rest. We, as a mother, I have 2 children, as a mother, if I can stop one child from having to live the rest of its life and being groomed, that my job's been done, and I won't class myself as a vigilante. And I already know that I've had multiple paedophiles go to prison, multiple. So I've done my job for more than one child. What the police forget is when we do this job, I've got the paperwork, they have to go to court, etc., etc. What if that was a real 13-year-old child? That child has to live with this for the rest of its life. So surely the job we're doing by protecting our children means that paedophile's taken off the street.
They have also said that these activities can compromise ongoing investigations and possibly trials.
And I just totally disagree with that. The evidence that we have together, we have checked numerous times that it's up to date with the laws of today. We would never go on a sting unless we were 100% sure that we have enough evidence to put that paedophile in prison. Again, I reiterate, the police do a great job. They're great at protecting all of their local communities, and the sad fact is that they don't have the time, the resources, or the money to do what we do for free. In my eyes, we are helping the community. We're not hindering the police. We're helping the children. I don't want any 13-year-olds, 14-year-olds, to go down as young as 11 to have to live with the images and the wording that is sent to me.
A line here we were sent from the police. We do not encourage the public, however, to act as agent provocateur in order to entrap offenders.
It's not entrapment. They're entrapping a 13-year-old child. If it was entrapment, we would arrange to meet. I would say to that person, I want to meet you. I would be saying to that person that I was wanting of a sexual nature. I don't say any of that. I tell him I'm 13. The law of entrapment I understand what the police say with the law of entrapment. We do not entrap that person. At any point during the messages, they can block me. At any point. They don't have to turn up at the designated place to meet. They can say, I don't want to meet you. They don't. They choose to do that. And quite often turn up with condoms. They turn up with sweets. They turn up with alcohol. They say that you'll get drunk, it won't hurt as much. So it's not entrapment because they are the ones who are arranging the meet.
Do you think the police need to set up a group similar to yours and be more proactive?
Yes. It's nothing about the money. However, if Lancashire Police approached us, Justice for Kids, and said, OK, we've got a 5-man team, we're going to work alongside you, and we agreed to do it 50-50, a bit of us and a bit of their rules, we'd love to work alongside the police. I have actually got a sergeant in Lancashire Police who's fantastic, and he always says, bring him in, leave him with us, we'll get it sorted. But yes, if the government could give resources, give a little bit more money, the money that you have to spend on a child for counselling after it's been sexually abused is far greater than what it would cost for 5 police officers in every community to work alongside a group like ourselves, without that poor child then having to spend the rest of its life going to counselling. So no, if the police could get a little bit more funding, we would love to work alongside them. And may I also just say, a lot of our hunters are ex-army, ex-RAF, ex-police, SIA registered, a lot of them. So we're not just some bloke off the street that's you're a paedophile, I'm going to do this. They're not. They're all very, very well trained. They have to be careful what they say. They have, as I say, they'll throw themselves on top of the paedophile and they will take a good beating so the paedophile doesn't get hurt. So as much as it's a team effort, it's the decoys, it's the hunters, the admin, it's everything. Just don't judge us as vigilantes, because we're not vigilantes. We're just trying to keep the kids safe.
Just going back to the sites you use dating sites. You have to say which
ones.
Do all decoys use different ones?
Yes, we have different decoys and different ones. We have a thing where we select certain decoys between the hours of 12 and 1, which is lunchtime at school. We usually do 3 a day. 3 decoys are picked, so between 12 and 1 they can answer. Between the rest of us, between 9 and 3, we can't answer because we'd be in school. If you're an 11, a 12 or a 13-year-old decoy, it's bed at Hop Estate, last message is sent at 9. If you are a 14, 15-year-old decoy, it's bed at 9:30, last message is sent by 10, and no more contact after that. On a weekend, we add an hour on because it's weekend.
So it really is treated as though these decoys are real and how a real
Absolutely.
Child would respond.
Absolutely.
Can you tell us a little bit about your decoys? Because I believe most of you have full-time jobs, and a lot of you are trained.
Yes.
Could you tell us a little bit about it?
Yes. Well, we have, when you first, you can't just come onto one of the sites and say, I want to be a decoy. We have certain policies and rules that we have to go by. We also do a little bit of background check. A lot of our decoys have been groomed in their past, and some have been sexually assaulted in the past as well. I feel they think it's a good way to deal with what's happened to them. Yes, you're right, as I hold a full-time job down, as a lot of the other hunters and decoys do. We don't get paid. We don't want paying. There's quite often people will come on and say, we do it between ourselves. If we need something, we'll go and get it, or we have to share the petrol. Sometimes our hunters have to travel 4 or 5 hours. So we have to cover the petrol. We have to cover them staying maybe in a travel lodge overnight. It's something as a group that we do together. But yeah, if people want to be a decoy, I would recommend they sort of go. There's lots of different groups. It's not just Justice for Kids. We've got Predators Hunters, Silent Justice. They usually put on their pages looking for decoys. It is anybody who wanted to do it, you've got to be quite strong-minded, because it's sick, as you've seen today, what I've shown you. The things that man thinks I'm 13, you have to be warned that it could upset you. The other thing is as well, we get some decoys sometimes get indecent images of other children sent to them of what that man would like to do. When that happens, you lose your phone. So you've got to go buy a new phone then as a decoy, because as soon as that's receiving indecent images of children, we have to hand it to the police. So if you've got an iPhone, they're not cheap, and you have to give that over, and it's never given back to you because it's used as evidence and it's received indecent images of children. And you can't have that. It's against the law. So we have to hand our phone into the police. So it's not just a case of the petrol, the paper for printing, etc. We lose our phones. So we've now... And you have to have a smartphone. You can't have one of these old ones. You have to have the smartphone. So monetary-wise, it's saying about us being vigilante groups, etc., we don't ask for anything off anybody. All we ask them to do is watch, and we ask them to share to make public every single paedophile that we do a sting on.
There are parents out there who are tech savvy, and there are those that really aren't, and leave the kids just to get on with things. So do you think it's creating a great awareness that parents need to be tech savvy in this day and age?
Absolutely, and at no fault of the children. Them children should be... We all use computers now. Them children should be allowed to go online and do whatever games that they do without the worry from the parents of a paedophile contacting them. Unfortunately, because of the way the internet is, that can't happen. You can't block any strangers or whatever. They can come through whenever they want. We can't all go on courses as parents to learn how to work the new phones, the laptops, etc. However, you can sit with your child. When your child's on that, don't send them to the bedroom and let them have an hour on the iPad. Don't send them into the back room. Sit with that child. And I'm a great believer, you need to tell your child early that there are nasty men out there are strange men that will send things to you that you don't want them sending. But if you send your child into a dining room with an iPad, trust me, you do not know who they're talking to. Who they're talking to. Who they're talking to. Who they're